Let's try something. I want you to forget, just for a moment, that the Quran is simply a collection of stories. What if it's something else entirely? What if it's a perfectly designed architecture, a single, self-contained system where every last piece is in perfect balance? Well, that's the incredible idea we're going to unpack in this explainer.
So let's get right to the heart of it. What if all those stories, the prophets, their struggles, their triumphs, what if they aren't just stories? What if the narrative that we read and the deep structure of the book itself are actually the exact same thing, just viewed from two different angles, literally two sides of the same coin?
The idea is this: the Quran is a single, closed system. It contains one unified reality, but we can look at it in two different ways. It's like looking at a 3D sphere. From one angle, you see a perfect circle. From another, you see a curve. Two different projections, but they're both describing the exact same object.
And a source material on this is incredibly confident. It's not saying these two views are just kind of similar or that they echo each other. No. The claim is that they are a perfect one-to-one match. There's no wiggle room. They fit together absolutely seamlessly.
Okay, so let's break down what these two views actually are. On one side, you have the geometric view. This is pure structure. Think axes, planes, and unchangeable laws, like the physics of the system. On the other side, you have the genealogical view. This is the part we're more familiar with, the stories of prophets, their family lines, and history. But here's the kicker. They aren't two different things. They are the same system, just viewed at two different resolutions. Now, for any system this perfect to hold together, it's got to have a center, right? An anchor point, something at its core that is non-negotiable and never, ever changes. The source calls this the invariant core. And what's at the absolute center of this entire structure? The book. But hold on, the book here isn't what you might think. It's not just about content, not just words on a page. In this model, it's an active function. Its job is to enumerate and to witness, which allows something amazing to happen: continuity, without needing a biological bloodline. And that right there is the key. Because the book serves as this unshakable anchor, you can have continuity, you can have inheritance that isn't based on biology. It's a spiritual succession. This explains how figures like Yahyā can step into a prophetic role without a direct family line. It's like the system itself is saying that your function, your alignment, is way more important than your family tree.
All right, so we've got our anchor point. Now, how does the rest of this framework get built? Well, the system expands outwards along these really clearly defined axes. And this is where you really start to see the geometry and the stories just snap together like puzzle pieces.
First up, the vertical axis. Geometrically, this is a stark up or down choice between kingdom and Razīm, which basically means being rejected, cast out. So how does that look in the stories? It plays out as the ownership test. The rule is dead simple. If you try to claim ownership for yourself, like Pharaoh, you go down, you're rejected. But if you release that claim, like his wife Āsiyah, you go up, you ascend. Next, we have the horizontal axis. This one is all about two different kinds of mercy, Rahman and Rahim. Think of Rahman as this massive open field. It's a universal mercy that allows absolutely everything to exist. But Rahim? That's different. That's a filter. It's a selective mercy that determines what gets to continue. So everyone gets to exist in the field, but you have to pass through the filter to keep going. And that's exactly why Noah's son fails, despite his bloodline. Alignment, knowledge, overrides blood. Then you've got this diagonal plane, the execution layer, that connects heaven and earth. And the best place to see this in action is the story of Musa and Khidr. Remember that? Khidr does these things that seem totally random, like damaging a perfectly good boat. But from a structural point of view, it's a correction. He was protecting the boat from a tyrant who was about to seize it. It's a perfect printout of the system's deep logic, always working to stay in balance. So we've got a center, we've got these axes, and we've got an action plane. But what's the glue? What is the one single law that locks the geometry and the stories together so tightly they can never be pulled apart? Amazingly, the source points to this one short verse from Surah Yasin. It describes the cycle of the moon, how it eventually returns to look like an old palm fiber. It sounds beautiful and poetic, right? But in this model, this isn't just poetry. This is the carrier law. This is the master hinge for the entire system.
So what on earth does old palm fiber actually mean here? Well, think about it. An old, dried piece of palm fiber can still offer support, but it's sterile. It has no seed. It can't create anything new from itself.
And that's the whole point. It symbolizes continuity without biological creation. The system's core rule is this: whatever returns, whatever cycles back, comes back stripped of its claim to lineage. It's purified. Okay, but wait a minute. If this is such a perfectly closed system, how does anyone get in? Is it just a historical artifact we can admire from a distance? The source says no. It's a living protocol. It remains accessible. So how? The answer lies in a dual function. Let's think of it like a secure door. The Muhammad function is the gate itself, and the system's rules are explicit. This gate is not sealed by biology. It's always open. So what's the key to get through? That's the Ahmad function. It's the activation code of praise that lets anyone enter into the system's logic without ever breaking its perfect structure. All right, every complete system needs a boundary, a final, global rule that proves it's complete and defines its absolute limits, the ultimate firewall. And this model finds that final seal in Surah 112, building the boundary line by powerful line. First, the absolute source of the system was not born. It does not come from a lineage. Second, it does not give birth in a biological sense. It does not create a lineage of its own. And finally, there is nothing else like it. Nothing. It is totally unique and unparalleled. And that right there, that is the final seal. The boundary is set. And so here it is, the whole thing laid out. Just look at the perfect mapping. The geometric center is the narrative's book as witness. The vertical axis is the ownership test. The unifying law of curvature is the principle of purified return. Every single component has its perfect dual. It all maps one-to-one with nothing left over. And that brings us to the final conclusion from the source. This is one system. Geometry and genealogy are just dual projections of a single counted order. There's nothing extra, nothing missing. The structure is, in its own words, closed, balanced, Qur'an complete, and invariant, which means its truth never changes, no matter which way you look at it. So, after laying out this incredibly intricate model of the Qur'an as a perfect, living system, the source doesn't end with a statement. It ends with a challenge, a question that it turns right back on every single one of us. It doesn't ask what the Qur'an is. It asks, when are you becoming Qur'an?